The Shadow and the Soul. The Titan in the living room. He is 150 pounds of midnight muscle. A jet black Cane Corso, with a face like a weathered stone and a head the size of a basketball. To a stranger on the street, Knox looks like a warning, a creature designed for iron gates and heavy chains. But inside the walls of his home, Knox has a different title. He isn't a guard dog. He isn't a protector. According to the two people who know him best, Knox is a father. Specifically, he is a father to an 11-month-old, blue-eyed boy named Wyatt. And in the heart of this giant, there is no doubt. Wyatt is his puppy, and nobody in the house has the courage, or the heart, to tell him otherwise. The silence before the storm. Jenna and Marcus hadn't planned on a dog. Not then. Their lives felt too fragile, like glass that had been shattered and glued back together. A year of quiet grief. A lost pregnancy, a lost job, and the kind of heavy silence that fills a room when two people run out of words. The house was too quiet. The hallways were too long. It was Jenna's mother who suggested a rescue. Not as a fix, but as something warm, something alive, something that needed them as much as they needed to be needed. They found him in a back corner of a county shelter. Knox didn't bark. He didn't jump. He just sat there, watching them with calm, amber eyes that seemed to understand the weight of their sorrow. He had been rejected twice, once for being too big, and once for being too intimidating. Jenna looked at the giant. Marcus looked at the warning on his file. Not recommended for homes with small children. They took him home anyway. The unseen shift. For the first few weeks, Knox was a ghost. He moved through the house with a slow, careful grace, as if he were afraid that making too much noise would get him sent back to the concrete. He followed Jenna from room to room, a silent black shadow always 3 paces behind. Then, the miracle happened. The pregnancy they thought was impossible became real. As Jenna's belly grew, Knox changed. He stopped sleeping in his bed. Instead, he took up a post outside the bedroom door. Every single night, facing the hallway, a 150-pound soldier on a permanent watch. When they brought Wyatt home from the hospital, the air in the house was thick with tension. Marcus held the car seat tight. Knox stood in the living room, perfectly still, his nose twitching as he memorized the scent of the new life. He didn't bark. He didn't lung. He simply lowered his massive head and let out a long, shuddering sigh. The bond was sealed before the baby even opened his eyes. The morning wash. As Wyatt grew, a ritual emerged. Every morning at 7 a.m., Knox performs what the family calls the wash. He licks the top of Wyatt's head for exactly 3 minutes. It is gentle. It is deliberate. It is the way a lead wolf grooms a cub. Wyatt giggles, his tiny fingers disappearing into Knox's thick fur, and the giant leans in, closing his eyes in absolute bliss. Then comes the delivery. Knox finds Wyatt's favorite stuffed giraffe, carries it in his massive jaws, and drops it at the baby's feet. He sits. He waits for approval, and once he receives a tiny, toothless grin, his job for the day begins. When Wyatt started to crawl, Knox became a living barricade. If the baby moved toward the stairs, 150 pounds of muscle would gently slide into the way. If the baby moved toward the kitchen, Knox would circle ahead and block the door with his body. He wasn't just watching a child. He was raising a pup. 2:47 a.m. The world changed on a Wednesday night. The house was wrapped in the deep, heavy sleep of the suburbs. Marcus and Jenna were in the master bedroom. Wyatt was in his crib. Knox was in his usual spot, lying across the threshold of the nursery door. At 2:47 a.m., the silence was shattered. It wasn't a growl. It was a roar. A deep, relentless, urgent bark that shook the pictures on the walls. Marcus stumbled into the hallway, his heart hammering. He found Knox pacing frantically in front of the crib, his nose nudging the mattress. Marcus reached in. Wyatt was burning. His skin felt like a fevered coal. 104.2 degrees. The dash to the emergency room was a blur of red lights and sirens. The doctor said it was a severe respiratory infection, the kind that moves in the dark and steals a child's breath before morning. They said that if they had waited just 3 more hours, the outcome would have been a tragedy. Knox had known. Before the monitors. Before the thermometers. Before the parents. The intimidating dog had sensed the shift in the air, the change in the heartbeat, and he had refused to let the silence win. The heart of a dad. When they finally brought Wyatt home, Marcus did something he hadn't done in years. He sat on the kitchen floor, pulled that massive, wrinkled head into his lap, and cried, "Thank you," he whispered into Knox's ear. The giant didn't move. He just rested his chin on Marcus's shoulder and let out that familiar, heavy sigh. Today, Wyatt is 14 months old. He doesn't see a guard dog. He doesn't see a beast that people cross the street to avoid. He sees his best friend. He sees his pillow. He sees the giant who delivers his giraffe every morning. When strangers see them at the park and pull their children away in fear, Jenna just smiles. They see a monster. She sees a dad. She sees 150 pounds of jet black proof that sometimes the thing that saves your family isn't a person. Sometimes it's a dog with a head the size of a basketball who decided that a little blonde boy was his whole world. And in this house, he is exactly where he belongs.